Amidakyapi. Chante washte na pechiuzapi. My relatives, I greet all of you with a good heart and a handshake on this beautiful day. Today in the studio on the planning show, we have a special guest from California. We have Richard Talbert Westerman. He's here to talk about solar energy among the SWO. And it's a very exciting time that we're in right now. And we want to learn a little bit about what is happening with solar energy. You know, as we all know, solar energy comes from the sun. And Richard is going to talk to us about the opportunity that the tribe has right now at this very moment to explore solar energy and to exert our sovereignty among our nation. So I'd like to welcome you, Richard, to the show.
Thank you.
And we'll kind of get started by Richard. You could just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
My name is Richard Talbert Westerman. My mother is Leanne Talbert and my father was Floyd Westerman. I'm a System Wapton tribal member, also a proud Teosh Bazina graduate, and I've been in the solar business about 6-7 years in California. Before that I was in gaming construction, and I actually got my start here on the reservation through a small business loan. So I guess I've been working in the solar business. I started out in residential solar, doing homes on the Morongo Reservation in California, and got into a minority entrepreneurship program that the San Diego Gas and Electric and Semper Utilities sponsored through San Diego State University. Learned about working with the investor-owned utilities in California. They helped me with business planning and planning out a business to win a contract with as a minority business in California. So that's kind of how I got into solar. I did a lot of work in gaming and before that, and sat on some boards, national boards in Indian country. And right now I'm pretty excited. You know, the cost of solar has gone down tremendously. I know everybody sees the solar farms in Minnesota, and there's plenty in South Dakota and North Dakota. So as the cost of solar development has gone down over the years, the solar projects are more feasible in the northern states. So that's one of the reasons I'm here, and it's because finally now it's cheaper to make energy with solar than it is with coal or nuclear. And that's the opportunity now, and it's a great opportunity for any tribe that has a lot of land that's been previously disturbed or leased out for farming, and solar makes more money now. So.
One of the good things about it too is that solar energy, the solar panels, they help reduce our electric bills,
Yeah.
right, in our community. And it seems like in our community we have such a hard time paying those high light bills that we have. I mean, especially in the winter.
Yeah.
There's many families in our community that can't afford their light bill. Because sometimes, I've seen light bills as high as over $1,000, for a month. And I'm excited that the solar energy and that the tribe is going to finally take a step towards being independent.
Yeah.
Right. So if you could tell us, how did that come about?
Well, I think it came about naturally. If you look at the tribe's history, we've grown so much over the last 20 years that most communities that experience that growth, it's natural for them to start looking at producing their own power rather than just buying it off the grid, because the cost becomes outrageous. I would say over the last 20 years, the System Wapton tribe has spent over $45-50 million on energy alone, through the casinos, the homes, the businesses, everything located on the reservation. If you add it all up over 20 years, it's a significant amount of money, and all of that money has been going out of the community to the local utility co-ops and Otter Tail, and just common sense says that the tribe needs to and should, and it makes it makes sense economically to build their own utility and produce their own power and pass on those savings to the tribal member. The only way to help the person with the high electric bill is to create a utility that's tribally owned, that works with the tribal member, that works with them on efficiency, helping them reduce their energy use, and then also treats them fairly, which I don't think has been happening here. Although the tribe is the largest customer of all of these co-ops, we have no representation on their boards. We have no representation on the South Dakota Public Utility Commission, although we're the major purchaser of power in Northeast South Dakota. So we need to, because we haven't been treated right, and also all the economic benefits, and we want to make things better for our tribal members. You know, if you're talking about bills or $300, $400, $500, up to $1,000, that's a mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
And most people can't making choices over food and health care to pay their energy bill isn't right. And it's probably about time that and I thank the Reservation Planning Commission, the council, and the leadership, because, you know, this is truly how you can save money for each tribal member and increase the quality of life that they're at the same time by freeing up some of those funds spent on energy for other things. So I think it's natural. Anybody with this many properties and this high of electricity use should and need, and people are going solar when they never even would have thought about doing it before. We also have a tremendous advantage in the amount of land we have. You know, producing solar on unused land pays far more than using it for agriculture right now. And so I just see it as another option for the tribe to expand and make money, but also at the same time provide for the tribal members, which should be the number one goal of the tribe.
Yeah, that's real. It is really very exciting because solar energy is probably new to many of us in the community, and I don't, you know, as a community member myself, thinking about, I don't really know a lot about how it works, what is it going to look like once it gets started.
So what people are doing now in energy is creating microgrids. A lot of people think of solar as panels on each roof, but the opportunity when you control your own land and you have your own utility is that we can power multiple homes with single larger solar arrays. And solar arrays are solar panels that are made out of glass, and they have the silicon inside with copper going through, and there's a chemical reaction when the sun comes up. Oh, yeah. Great. And so what they do is they create a chemical reaction and they create energy. So each solar panel creates about 250 to 300 watts of energy, and you simply string them along and put them in the sun, and that combined with battery can provide all the power any community needs depending on the size. My project in California is 250 acres, does 20 megawatts of energy every day, and we sell that energy to San Diego Gas and Electric, and we power about, I would say, 4,000 homes every day in Southern California with our solar field.
Wow, that is exciting.
So,
4,000 homes every single day.
every day we got a contract for 20 years to do that, which is we've expanded off of that first project, which started at 20 megawatts, and we're over 100 now there in Imperial County, and which is just east, about 60 miles east of San Diego, along the Mexican border there in Southern California.
So that picture that we just saw, is that kind of what it's going to look like here?
That picture is my large installation. It's those are bigger thin film panels on a tracker. So they tilt the panels from east to west to follow the sun, and it should be very similar like that. We're going to have fixed tilt. The reason that picture looks like that is because the sun is directly above the panels at that point, and it follows the sun. That's to produce more energy as the sun passes through the sky. Here, the opportunity here is we don't have to do that. We can just use fixed tilt at 18 degrees and leave them stationary. And because when you have more land, you don't have to do the tilt to follow the sun. You just put more panels out there and they produce the energy.
It's kind of like a sunflower seed, right?
I guess, yeah.
That's how the sunflower grows? It follows the sun?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are called the tracker system. You'll see those where people are just trying to increase output. They make sense when the cost of that tracker increases the production and pays for itself. So fixed tilt works just as good. They're more sturdy because in this environment with storms and tornadoes and snowstorms, you want to have a fixed to the ground securely, and that's what we're going to do here.
So it's not flat on the ground, it's going to be fixed.
It's at an
raised up a little
18-degree
bit.
tilt, 4 feet high in the front and about 9 feet high in the back. And they're long strings of face to south.
And so they're all weather resistant. We'll have somebody who can go, did they have to go and like push the snow off of them?
Yeah, operations and maintenance of the solar field requires in the summer spraying them and cleaning them, and in the winter hitting them with an antifreeze. But solar panels don't work from direct light, they work from ambient light. So even when it's cloudy or raining or there's snow on it, there's still light penetrating and it produces energy. But one of the opportunities for jobs for tribal members would be to maintain these systems and cleaning them, making sure the connections are good and testing them, and also getting the snow removal. There'll be security. But the operations and maintenance would provide us a good number of jobs for tribal members, and that's what we're looking at doing.
We're talking like, this is a multi-million-dollar project.
Yeah.
Coming.
Right now we're working on the financing, which is we're right about $40 million in the, and that's just to get started. That's the casinos, the administration building, and a lot of the other larger meters on the reservation. And when I say $40 million, it's not, remember, the tribe is paying these bills.
Yeah.
So we're technically making a payment that's going out of the community. This way, with the financing, every payment we make is staying in the community, paying off the solar fields, and which would transfer ownership to the tribal utility after about a 5-6 year period. So the real economics of it is the tribe will be with no investments, only just keep paying the current bills they have been paying. In 6 years, they'll own all of these fields and be able to, enjoy 100% of the profit. So we do that by selling the tax credit. The U.S. government has an investment tax credit of 30%, and they also accelerated depreciation on the equipment, which basically means you have 100% cost of a solar field. Because of the government benefits, that cost is cut in half. So now we only have to finance half of the cost, and because of that is the cost of solar has gone down so significantly, we can pay off that half of that cost in a minimum amount of years, which is about 5 years. So, and solar panels have warranties for 30 years. All of our systems and are guaranteed output. So, people say, what if the grid goes down? What if it don't? What if it fails? Well, we'll have propane generators and batteries to, if anything happens, to make up with the power. We'll also remain connected to the current grid. And if everything else fails, we're going back to the current poles that are up and taking energy off the grid. But the numbers say solar fields are more reliable than grid power. So I know one of the issues with grid power is all the lines freezing and snapping in the winter. Our lines will be buried under the ground, so we won't have that problem. We mitigate that risk right away, and the next problem would be security and vandalism, but we counter that with fences and video. And it's very hard to affect a solar field with vandalism or damaging the panels, because they're linked in series of 8. So the most that could happen is 8 panels would fail. And because of our software, everybody will be notified. The operations and maintenance, the tribal leadership, tribal maintenance, everybody will be notified if there's a problem, and it can be fixed before it affects the system.
So we kind of have all of our bases covered. Like for the average citizen, like myself in our community, I don't really think about the light bills, the dollar amounts that our tribal administration pays for our light bill, the casinos. But I can imagine that they're quite high. I mean, like thousands of dollars that we're paying in electricity.
Hundreds of $1,000s a month.
Hundreds of thousands a month.
A few $3 million a year, which you get to that $50 million total over 20 years, or you could call it $30 million over 10 years. We also have no control on rate increases. The tribe has zero representation on the South Dakota Public Utility Commission. We have no representation on the Otter Tail Board, the Whetstone Board, the Coddington Clark Board, although we're their biggest customer. So we've been treated very unfairly because we lack a representation. We have no idea what their plans are. They could tomorrow vote to double everybody's electric bill, and we would have no say in it. So doing a utility and creating our own energy is how we control our future, really. And rather than continue to pay our bills every month and just paying for the co-op systems, and they own it and they keep it, every time we pay a bill, we're actually paying down for the ownership of our equipment, our power producing facilities. So it's all about keeping the money in the community, recirculating through, and not just being a customer and throwing the money out to these co-ops, which I'm sure they're just passing on savings to the non-Indian members. And and I have to say, if you're talking about individual tribal members' homes with high bills, they need to realize that half of their bill isn't energy. You're paying for all the administration, the equipment, the employees of the utility. All of those extra charges are what equal to amount about half of the bill that they're paying. So they're not really purchasing all 100% energy. Hopefully our tribal utility can change that, because they actually really only need the amount of energy they're using is about half the cost of what they're paying. And a lot of that's because of how the grid is. Remember, stringing electric poles miles and generating energy from coal is about a 200-year-old technology. So they have experienced a lot of problems, a lot of upkeep. It costs them a lot to keep that system going, which is why you keep seeing our rates going up. The average in South Dakota is 3 to 4% per year. And if you look at that over the next 10 years, just on the rate of inflation, tribal members in the tribe in 10 years would be looking at paying a third more. So solar is important, because when the day you put it in, you're locking in your price of energy. You know what you paid for the solar panels, you know what, and you can plan for that. You can do long-term financing, because nobody's going to increase your rate. So, and it affects businesses tremendously. If you ask the accountants or CFOs of our gaming entities what their electric bill is going to be next year, they don't know. They have no control over it. So how do we plan for that? The only way to plan for that is to provide our own power. So.
And in order to manage all of the solar energy that from these grids that we're going to that are going to be built in around the different areas, is it 3 different areas?
So what we're doing are called microgrids. So we're not actually stringing lines all over the community. We're placing these solar arrays, several of them, directly next to the buildings or home communities that it's serving. That's called behind the fence. That means we're just hooking directly into the power supply, and we're pretty lucky, because of the way our communities are designed is pretty simple. So they have one connection of power coming in to serving 16 or 20 or 30 homes. It's easy to grab that power where it's hooked up to, and put solar there and provide for the homes. We might have to replace the meters if it's called for. I definitely would suggest replacing the meters, because most tribal meters, if you go out and look at your house, they're all rusted, old, probably 10 to 20 years old. We might be getting overcharged just from the state of the meter, and I'm pretty sure that's true right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to manage all of that solar power, we have to have our own utility company.
Yeah, we definitely, and the reason you have to have a tribal utility company, and basically the feds are pushing it this way. You know, we're in this area of the country, the grid is owned by an organization called the Western Area Power Administration, WAPA. And each tribe under WAPA receives a federal energy allocation. So I know a lot of people have talked about the WAPA funds and the WAPA account, and that's 2 cents a kilowatt hour we're getting based on our population. So that's actual energy that we're owed through agreements for our land and all that we gave up. But right now, if you don't have a tribal utility, that allocation goes to the co-ops serving the reservation. They only, because it's indirect and we're being served by a non-Indian entity, they only get 18% of it. The moment we create a tribal utility, we get 100% of our tribal energy allocation, which hopefully would then can be applied directly to the tribal member, rather than being given to the co-op, who basically just takes that energy and then still charges us more for it. So even though we get the rebate of 2 cents, we're being charged a lot more than 2 cents, and they're basically reselling our energy to us. And we have to take control of that. And you know, it's totally making economical sense, and that's when you do things like this to save money.
So that's exciting, having our own utility company. Like
it is,
yeah,
you know, if you look at utilities, do several things. You know, first of all, to deal with utilities, you have to be a utility. So by having the utility as a business, we're automatically in the power marketing business, which means once we take care of our tribal members and our businesses, then we could start looking at selling energy out to the grid as a business. And that could bring in a lot of extra revenue for the tribe. And we could basically, if you look at the agricultural land lease rates, all of our land is pretty much undervalued. And if we take control of that by building some solar farms, we're going to make a lot more money. And we could actually be looking at the tribal utility leasing land from tribal members, rather than the farmers who are contaminating it and not treating it right and not paying a high rate. We would actually make more money, and the tribal member would make more money on the lease if we use some tribal member land to generate solar power. So another thing tribal utilities do, is energy efficiency is very important. So we're going to provide education, LED lighting, on how do you reduce your bill, because remember, the less energy you use, the less energy the utility has to buy. That's why everybody's bills are high, because they retroactively charge for having that energy ready. It's called a demand charge. So if everybody wants to look at their bill closely, you'll see what you're actually being charged. It says demand kilowatts. So that means they're charging you for having the energy ready for the previous 30 days. You didn't use it, but because they had that amount of energy ready for you to use, that's what you're getting charged.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's on everybody's bill. The demand charges in this territory are extremely high. So if you're looking at how it affects our casinos, is say we have a concert at night and we have a spike in energy one night in a month. Well, the utility then goes back, takes how much energy we use, and retroactively charges us for the last 30 days for having that energy ready. That's called the demand charge. That's why our bills are so high, because although the co-ops are supposed to be nonprofits, they found a way to, through demand charges, we're paying for their system upgrades, we're paying for their employees, everything, and we need to be paying our guys. So, but the utility mainly serves the tribal member, promotes energy efficiency with the tribal member through programs providing lighting, educating them about closing their windows in the winter and the doors, maybe doing some weatherization of the homes. Hopefully, once utility starts making money, we can provide funds to upgrade that or the actual light bulbs. Then you start getting into high efficiency appliances, because remember, if we reduce the energy use of our tribal members, it costs us less to produce that energy. So we're going to be actively promoting the tribal member homes and helping them with efficiency and reducing their bill. I'm just the consultant and the contractor to do this, so it would be a tribal decision on when we own our utility, how much savings are we going to give the tribal members. And I would say, they could look at saving some money right away. And the schedule, is because of the investment tax credit on solar, we have until the end of December 2020 to get these projects online and receive all the benefits from the federal government. So I know the tribes has been talking a lot about energy projects for a lot of years, and we pretty much have 2 years left of any federal benefit and savings that we need to do some energy projects now.
So we really can't let this opportunity pass us by.
No, a lot of people will though, they and a lot of they don't have the benefits. So this is possible for the tribe because we own these businesses. We always pay our bill. You've never seen the lights turned off on the casino. We also have the land to build the solar. So we're unique we actually have a better situation than the utilities, because the utilities that sell us energy, they don't make their own energy. They're buying it from other sources and reselling it to us. So they're kind of not a real utility either. Real utilities, when you start producing energy, the tribe will then be on the same status as XL Energy, Northern States Power, WAPA, because you have to produce energy to be a legitimate utility. And once you produce energy, you're hooked into the U.S. grid, which gives us all types of opportunity to sell energy throughout the country. Also, the system locked in, and hopefully we've talked about it being the tribe utility being called Dakota Power. So ultimately, Dakota Power could be selling energy all over the country, and it would be the first utility in the country that's 100% powered by renewable energy, solar power. And that's a premium now of energy in the United States. Most corporations and states and other investor-owned utilities are actively seeking renewable energy to purchase, whether it's wind or solar, to meet their requirements that the government put on them. So I see it as not only serving the tribal member, it's saving our businesses money, it's also providing a business opportunity to the tribe.
So I'm going to put, in my mind, I have a few questions that I just want to ask from like community that would, be thinking about all of these things that you've told us. As an Oyate, do we have the capability to handle this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Every little city and co-op, I don't think they have better people than us. We have highly educated tribal members. We have great leadership right now. Managing a casino is definitely more detailed and harder than running a utility, because remember, all utilities mainly do is bill the customer and run some programs. So managing the utility would be very easy. Probably be less work than managing every time the light bills comes out, everybody trying to pay them and running around the programs, and the utility definitely easier to manage, because remember, solar panels, once they're hooked up, there's no moving parts. They're warranted for 30 years, and they very easy to fix. So operations, it's not like we're gonna in a snowstorm send people out to fix poles. we don't have to worry. Our lines are buried under the ground. There's fences around our solar arrays. They'll be secure. And it's pretty much low maintenance after you build it. So I'm not afraid of maintaining the systems or the business because we got great people. We have a tribal college with vocational ed and electricians, and I believe we do have the people to successfully run it. Other communities, they really don't, and we have a tremendous amount of resources that we can use to get this done. So,
And we really do already have a utility company per se with Fuel Inc.
yes,
Right.
Fuel Inc. is an energy company. They sell energy. Propane is energy
Right.
that's used in the homes. So our systems will be backed up by propane generators. So we'd actually be purchasing propane from Fuel Inc. to allow these communities to stay online and powered, which would help our Fuel Inc. business as well. And it's actually going to help Fuel Inc. expand to expand their business and bring in more income. So
in my home, so if I have all electric home, and I have the electric, what do you call it?
Heaters?
So how is it going to be different from solar? Is that electric heater still going to work? Is it going to just pump out, or how does that go?
Well, yeah, we produce the same amount of energy as
Okay,
the utility does. We actually oversizing the systems because it's pretty funny. Once people get solar, they start using a lot more energy. So we have to oversize them. But there's the power is no different. It's actually firmer power, which means because the array is right next to the community or the home or the casino, there's no energy loss. So
Okay.
we're not paying for something that we don't get. And also, there's no demand charge. So we're going to take off the cost of that demand charge right away, because the bill is paying for the equipment because we own the utility, remember. So that's once you're in the ownership position, and it's like, of course, we want to pass on savings to the membership. That's why you do it. And that's why every town or city ends up creating their own utility, building their own power producing plant, because communities and planning departments and everywhere that governments need to develop and expand, they don't like going to the utility and asking, when can you hook up my power? When are you going to spread out your territory? Anytime we want to build a house or a casino or anything, we're at the mercy of the utilities and what they're going to do to hook us up with power. So we can control our development, where we put our homes and where we put our businesses, by doing solar adjacent to the building and also owning our own utility.
So that's this is really exciting. And as far as what kind of advice would you give to the average community member like myself, who doesn't really quite understand that whole process of how it works? And what would you say to me to ease my mind about this whole
I would say have
project?
patience, because we've never owned a utility before. The tribe's been here a long time, and if we have to wait another 18 months or 2 years for relief, at least it's coming. If we just do nothing, your bill's not going to change. It's going to keep going up. So you could do that now. The local utilities themselves allow solar and net metering, and you can reduce your bill, but that puts all the cost on the tribal member, the individual tribal member.
Right.
When they're not individuals, they're tribal members on tribal land and tribal homes, and part of a government should be providing infrastructure for their members and their homes. So to me, it's naturally doing what the tribe should do to help the tribal member, but the individual tribal member has to have patience, and I know it's hard because these bills keep going up. You have low-income homes that are based on income, but they got a $300 electric bill. It makes no sense. It's keeping people, making things hard for them monthly, like clockwork when that bill comes. So have patience. It's going to be a little while longer, and luckily there is relief to that. There is an answer to that. Luckily we're doing it, and it's pretty exciting, and it is the smartest thing to do And that's what I would say to the tribal member: have a little more patience with planning and the leadership, because they are on the right track and we're on the right road to get this done. And we do have the right people that can get it done. You know, it's up to politics. You know, there will be a utility commission or utility board that sets the policies and that. So, you know, just like any utility, you would have low-income programs, elderly programs, and things like that. And hopefully there's savings spread throughout. Now remember, also it will help. Remember, with tribal members, we're like shareholders in the casino. So if we look at it like we're business owners owning these casinos, we definitely want solar, because all we're doing is sending money out through our businesses as well. 4 or 5 years down the line, when those solar fields are paid off, that means we no longer have an electric bill, or potentially have them, you know, maybe paying half of what we had been paying before. So savings is significant to our businesses, because we don't spend any money for that dollar we save. If you ask the casino manager, he has to spend $3 to make a dollar, or $3 later on to, you know, make that profit. When savings is pure profit. So that's the best way we could increase the economics of our casinos, is through savings. So, and then that can be applied to more jobs or expansion, or, you know, just we enjoy more money. Yeah.
Enjoy more money. That sounds great.
Well, it's going out of the community, and that's as easy as I can
Yeah.
put it. You know.
We have a lot of services
Yeah.
that our community needs, and that these extra funds can go towards.
Yeah,
And a lot of extra services.
One of the opportunities when you have a tribe utility, there's very large customers on our land that use energy. We're talking about the schools,
Yeah.
the clinic, you know, businesses. And I would think that, you know, eventually Dakota Power could be providing power to other reservations, going and becoming their utility. So, you know, I'm all for that. You know, once we set up the business, you become an expert, and I believe other tribes and maybe even other local communities near us would be looking to join our utility.
So this is something of the future. It's future. It sounds almost futuristic, but it's not, because it's here right now.
It's here right
been
now.
here.
Just
It's
take a
been
drive
here.
through Minnesota and South Dakota, North Dakota. You'll see several solar fields, and they're not doing it to save the environment. They're doing it because it's saving them money. And, you know, those are one of our values, is respect for the environment. So I think it works perfect for tribes.
Yeah.
And we just had to wait. For instance, 5 years ago, the cost of solar was 20 times what it is right now. And, you know, because of that, more people are going solar. It's actually more reliable than coal or nuclear. Imagine the things that happen, like with nuclear plants, and how coal plants degrade over time and get shut down. In a solar field, you just put new panels out there when they degrade. So I think it is the answer, and it's we couldn't have did it before. So I don't want to say like, oh, the tribe should have did this before. It's just right now we have this window of time where all the benefits are saying it makes sense to you. It's the smartest thing to do right now, and it also saves money and makes money. So we have a lot of bills to pay and a lot of people to take care of here on our reservation, and this is one of the great opportunities that we have right now in this country to make some money. So.
And one other good thing that I want to add, that I just kind of came to me, is that just thinking about our future generations and laying that groundwork for them, so that we can be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
In our utilities, and just taking care of what we need to take care of.
And, you know, I think, you know, I was talking to Tom here, and all of this progress over the last 20 years is amazing to me. You know, I went to school in the tribal gym. The first couple of years Tio Spazina started. I thought it was amazing when we moved into old building in TZ, and then now they got the new TZ, and now this building here. I couldn't imagine having a gym like this when I was in high school, you know. And I think there's so much positive things going on here at the reservation, and we got great leadership right now. I think it's the future is really bright, and so the youth needs to see that, and they need to appreciate all the hard work everybody did and the leadership did over the last 20 years to get to this point, you know. And the results show, you know, and they can look. I had to leave, you know. When I was going to Teosbazina, they said leave and get your education and, you know, do something, and they didn't say leave and get your education and come back. So now there is opportunity to come back because there's more things going on with the tribe, and I think that it's a more positive time for the tribe right now, and you can see it. You know, more people coming back, getting involved. We have a lot of great tribal members that can do a lot of things. So for the youth, you know, they need to know that the Sistan tribe are leaders. If you look at our casinos, the tribal college, Teosbazina, and how that started, everything we've done, Dakota Pride, we've been the leader among the Sioux tribes, and we have to recognize that. And we're going to lead in Dakota Power will be the first utility 100% powered by renewable energy, and it's going to be a great thing for the tribe. So
It's very exciting.
yeah, it is, and it's time. So, and you know, I appreciate that I was able to come back and be taken seriously, you know, and welcomed back into the community. So it's been great for me, and I think it's going to be very exciting when we start building these things and people start learning about the technology and the jobs it can provide, and everything else. So.
And Richard will have some information for us that he's developing, writing up, so that we can give, it'll be in the Shota, in our tribal newspaper, and it'll be online here at KXSW. We could share that. And we can also get it out to all of our councilmen, for the council representatives. And if you, at your district, if you would like more information or a special presentation, that might be something that we can arrange or schedule.
Sure.
To get information out there. And somebody else, one of the councilmen maybe asked for a public forum on it, but maybe more like a public educational opportunity for people just to find out more.
Yeah, there will be a lot going on. We need a lot of labor positions for the next couple of years here, and you know, installing solar is a great career right now, and you know, we can probably develop some of our youth to stay here, you know, and help maintain the utility and other businesses. So I think it's great, and it's all due to combination of things. One of the biggest thing is the federal requirement. The federal requirement has required all the tribes to invest in renewable energy and actually create tribal utilities as well. So it's not somebody's new idea coming to convince the tribe. It was actually the Western Area Power Administration not telling the tribes but directing them that these are where those funds should be applied, and this is the best thing these tribes could do.
And that's the WAPA.
That's the Western Area Power Administration, yes.
Okay. Can you one more time just kind of go over WAPA? Because I think in our community we hear a lot about WAPA money, WAPA funds. If you could kind of just like give us like a little breakdown in layman's terms.
WAPA owns the electrical grid, and they manage it. It's called the Western Area Power Administration. When you talk about WAPA funds, every tribe, based on their population in the census, is allocated energy, a certain amount of energy for each tribe. That's at 2 cents a kilowatt hour, which is pretty cheap energy. A lot of tribes with utilities, they create their utility and get that energy allocation and then resell it to the tribal members. Now, we'll be the first tribal utility that's creating energy. So we'll be able to take that energy allocation from WAPA and buy down our cost of energy and then create energy. So right now, our utilities and co-ops are getting the WAPA allocation and reselling it to us technically. So WAPA that's why they're promoting tribes to create their utility. Once we do that, we'll get 100% of our energy that was set aside for us in those agreements, and we can apply it to our utility, which is how they want it to be. Because right now, all of our energy allocation that we are owed as Native Americans is going to the co-ops in Ottertail, because they're indirectly serving us. So we have to serve ourselves, and that's what that WAPA money was for. A lot of people, and you can't use it for anything. It's specifically for energy development or tribal utility development now. The reason that is because WAPA is governed, and all the power in the states are governed by, they're called integrated resource management plans. Unfortunately, a few years ago when they did the last census, the tribe didn't have input on the plan. So WAPA, we're under the overall Northeast South Dakota region for energy planning in the country. Luckily, the integrated resource management plan by WAPA is all about renewable energy, because remember, coal is no longer feasible. So WAPA, being the owner of the grid, they don't want expensive energy put on their grid anymore. They want solar and renewable, because you drive your costs down, you're making more money. So it doesn't have a lot to do with the environment. It has to do now that it is cheaper to do solar than it is to make power with coal or nuclear. So that's why you see it coming around everywhere. And that point happened about just 3 years ago.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So thank you for that piece of information, because that plays a whole big, that's kind of like the base, the whole big part of this venture that we're going into.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of it. We're one of the major landowners, one of the major business owners, employers, energy purchasers. Right now, we are just purchasers of energy. That money we spend goes out. We don't know where it goes. It's helping other families that are tribal members. So we have to be the producers of energy and the sellers of energy. We have to flip that model and turn it into a business for ourselves. And that's what we're going to do. And it's luckily everything's lining up the right way with federal funds, with investment funds that we bring to the table, and also regulations on the federal side. So it's a culmination of a lot of different things, and we have the next window of 2 years to get this done.
So the time is now.
Time is now, right. Yeah, it's definitely right. And it is the right thing to do. So.
I feel good about it.
Yeah, me too.
I feel happy. As a tribal member, I'm excited. I'm very excited that we are taking this into our own hands, making our own energy. I mean, that's powerful. We're like up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
good.
And nothing's more reliable than the sun coming up every day.
Yeah.
So, you talk about reliability of power source. We have no worries, So, all those concerns, losing power, not being treated right, being overcharged, those should all go away in the next few years here.
Well, some people might say, we're not as sunny as Southern California or California, but the sun does come up every day, practically. And if it doesn't, it's still, like you said, it still works.
Well, remember, it's not direct sunlight or heat that powers solar panels. It's just light.
Light.
So it's light here, yeah. And the actual solar works better in colder temperatures, because as things heat up, you lose energy. It radiates energy off of it. So the real numbers are, by solar radiation in Southern California, you're about 1.7. And right here in Sisterton, we're about 1.4.
Wow.
So it's not a big difference between Southern California and South Dakota. The difference is the cost of solar panels over the last few years has gone down, which makes that feasible the difference between the solar radiation in the southern states and the northern states. So, for instance, 5 years ago, solar is sold by the watt. So a megawatt is 1,000,000 watts. So, like for instance, Teospazina probably requires a megawatt of energy. That's 1,000,000 watts. 5 years ago, solar was $7 a watt. So that would have been $7 million investment to run a facility that big. Right now, the price per watt is about $1.05. And that's from China trying to take over the solar market, flooding the country with panels, which there's no end to it, despite the tariffs that this current administration put on. Only about 7% of that tariff affects the price of the panel. So what China did was they dropped their prices 7% because they don't want to affect people like us not buying their panels and not committing to these big projects. So actually the tariff doesn't apply when you do projects as big as we do. So 10 megawatts and over, there is no federal tariff on solar panels. That's why we have to go big, or we'd be hurt by that tariff a little bit. But, yeah, that's so.
It's good. And I'm glad we have you as an expert on the topic that can answer our questions and help us to understand.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience. You know, I built a major project in solar and sold it. I'm actually half owner, and you know, we're to get that structure right, you know, is where my experience comes from, and that's what the tribe has to be the owner, right? Yeah. So it's exactly the same way I did my project, even with the same financial partners are going to be working with the tribe that are my partners. So it's the same model, and we're excited about it, you know. So
good. There you have it. All whatever you wanted to know about our solar project that we're moving towards, Sistan Moptin Oyate, it's exciting, and I would encourage each and every one of you to ask questions. You can call the planning department. You can also be on a lookout for the Shota. Next week we will have some information running in the paper periodically, maybe every other week, you know, so we can reach a lot of people. Again, we'll have it on the internet, and we'll have it there at the planning office, and we'll also give it the information to the council representatives, and so it can be brought up at your district meeting.
Great.
So thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Very proud of you and proud of all
thanks.
the work that you're doing for
Thanks.
the tribe, and this has been an exciting topic for the planning show. So thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again every Wednesday from 1 to 2. We are on the planning show, and we have all kinds of topics to discuss. If you have a topic that you'd like to share, please contact me. My name is Crystal Owen, and I am over at the planning department in a community as a community planner too. So thank you for tuning in, and again, thank you, Richard.
Thanks.